Hi, Andrea Waddell here. Welcome to the studio. In today's video, I am going to show you how I finished this abstracted landscape, which started off as an acrylic on unstretched canvas, and how I completed it using only these really beautiful, wonderful R&F pigment sticks that I love and adore. You've probably seen me talk about these before. So you are going to be able to see that process. I find that using these pigment sticks allows for just a lot of creativity and being able to be gestural and loosening up, even though you sometimes want to just make marks and stay tight. You can use them for all of that. And you can also use them like traditional oils, brush them on, palette knife them on. I also used this blending medium to speed up the drying time because there's beeswax in these R&F pigment sticks and it can take a really long time to dry. So you will see that second part of the process. The painting itself started off as a something like this. It's an unstretched piece of canvas that I had to drill into my board in the studio to get it to really stay. I found that trying to use pins doesn't work at all. And I'm experimenting and exploring working this way so that I can work a lot bigger and a lot larger. And I'm finding that starting with acrylics, which I have come to love and enjoy very much, and then completing the process with oil paints, and in particular the R&F, got me to a result that I'm pretty happy with so far. So you will see that mostly in this video. I'm also using a fancy new camera. The thing is so complicated, so much more complicated than the phone. It shuts off at random moments. And while I was really in the swing of getting all of this going, and I was all here and very excited and doing all kinds of stuff, and really the gestures got loose, the whole thing had shut down over there in the camera. But anyway, you'll get the point, and I will narrate this video so that you can, learn from it. Also, I don't know if you know this already, but I have a new fully online course on mastering abstract composition that is live now. You'll see the link to that in the notes below. It has come out. It took me a year to create. It was an enormous amount of work. It's getting fantastic reviews. But what I can say as a reviewer myself, someone who created the thing and I had to think through it, so much that my own process has gotten so much stronger by having to articulate things and being super clear in what I'm looking at, why I'm looking at it, and how I'm making shifts and changes in my work in ways that are, practical and pragmatic. And that was really the goal of that course. Anyway, I noticed that I've been noticing that in my own process, that I work faster, I work with a lot more confidence, having really taken the time to take these fundamental things apart, color theory, spatial relationships, etc., and review them for myself, kind of get them anchored in. Anyway, that whole thing, the course, the links are in the notes below. Meanwhile, I hope you get something from watching this video, and let's get to it. These two paintings at the base, these are loose canvas, and I've just thrown some acrylic on top of these, playing with some new toys, things that I got when I was on retreat in the south of France. I brought back these wonderful pigments that are absolutely gorgeous, and just playing with actually finding that just these mixed with water, wearing a mask, and then mixed with an acrylic medium work great. So started that way, and then I get to a stage where it's after playing, flip them around, look at them. It's harder to flip when they are loose canvas because they've got to be drilled into a wall or pinned into a wall. But anyway, flipped around enough for me to see that Now it looks like they want to become little landscapes. So I'm going to let that happen. I am going to play now with these fabulous R&F pigment sticks. Thank you, R&F, for these. So I have a set of opaque colors and I have a set of transparent colors here and a bunch of little samples I'm going to experiment with. My old R&F pigment sticks, and I brought this back from France, just some things just to play around with. And I'm going to be referencing a photograph that I took while I was on retreat, and I like these cliff-like formations. I like how I felt when I was in that environment. And I'm going to start here and take it from here, see what happens. This is this acrylic ink. I got it in France. I don't know if you can get it here, but it's Daler Brown, and it's kind of got this golden hue. Use this a lot on my retreat, and it's a star. I also got these little toys. So much fun. They are fluorescent pastels. I'm going to jump right in with these chalk pastels and put them down. This is an acrylic base, so it's really easy to put these chalky pigment sticks down. And it's a lot of fun to go back and forth between these and the R&F pigment sticks, finding places that are still dry so that I can come back in with the chalk. Creating lines, finding some definition. And here is that incredible acrylic ink. It's fluorescent and it's creating this amazing depth of color on top of this purple here. You'll see in just 1 second when I pull it across, it creates the value change that I wanted to see happen, something really intense. And I'm going to lay my R&F pigment sticks on top of that, a complementing color. So I'll have the pink base and then I'll add some greens on top, fixing it with the fixative. I'm also going to try using, this blending medium has a dryer in it because these R&F pigment sticks take a long time to dry and I would like this to dry faster. So I'm going to give this a whirl, see if I can, no solvents in this, so I love it already. This is the first time I've used this blending medium, so I'm going to just start by mushing it in and making things up as I go, and it worked out fun. I mushed it into the canvas directly, then I brought in my pigment sticks and I started working them in and using paper towels and drawing, partly drawing, scribbling at it. It's very satisfying. Blending it in with my squeegee, drawing, blending, using a brush. There are all kinds of ways to use these pigment sticks, which are essentially oil paints with a little bit of beeswax in it so that they become this stick-like form that you can draw with. So you can make marks or you can use them as traditional oil paints. So I'm kind of rubbing it in here. I want it to dry. Medium and using it. Bringing some of that in, using my squeegee tool, trying to get maybe a little bit of a glaze and seeing what happens with all these different various gestures with the squeegee tool. And I found too with the pigment sticks, if you press down hard, you can work wet on wet for a long time. Get all kinds of varieties of colors with them just by changing up the pressure, the amount of pressure. Use them lightly or press down pretty hard for various variations in it. So I've smushed that out. You can see it looks like a sky now. And now I'm using them as a mark making tool. I'm referencing the drawing and I am putting in shape. So it really is making that super easy, rolling it across like I would a pencil. All the various ways that you can work with it. It's really fun. Filling in those spaces, and then I can come in, I can use a brush, a dry brush to work that in a little bit. Continue defining the shapes, defining those edges. Keeps you really, really loose. Scribbling a little bit, getting that out of your system. Getting tighter, getting looser. They really allow for lots and lots of freedom. Now I am smooth, sort of working them in with a paper towel. So I've used a dry brush, I've used a squeegee, a paper towel, coming in with a smaller brush just to get some movement and some rhythm with it. This is wet on wet, lots and layers of wet on wet with my pigment sticks. Working in my shapes. Using a palette knife, you can also break the sticks up a little bit and just mix them with oil and cold wax, and use a palette knife to put that down. I love the way you can just move so quickly with them. You can either use them as a mark making tool, you can come in with your towel, you can bring a paintbrush in, coming back in with my chalk pigment sticks, applying those directly, kind of building this up little by little. Very, very loose reference to my photo. I'm really hardly looking at it. I'm kind of just letting myself be pretty loose to see what it's like to use R&F pigment sticks purely on top of an acrylic painting to build it up and give it a lot of depth and color and nuance, and blending it in directly, one color right on top of another. It's another thing that you can do. I kind of mush that up a little bit, then I'm going to get rid of it, but you can see that happening with a paper towel. This time I've put the pigment stick directly on my squeegee because I want it to lay down without getting too blended in, so I can have a little sky-like action up there. Pulling in to the acrylic behind it. Lifting it just with a paper towel. I didn't even have to bring in a solvent or anything to lift that to get to that pink there to the right. Making little shapes, going back and forth. This is what I do when I reference. It's very loose. I jump from idea to thing to suggestion to suggestion. Dry brush, big dry brush for that sky. Then I really started to get going, and I got to this little by little, working it up with all of my different pigment sticks from that stack of samples, and playing around with those shapes, some marks, rubbing it in. You can see that green, how it sits on top of that very bright pink. It looks really pretty exciting. Having that really defined look from the mark making that you can get with your pigment sticks, little fine details, scratching back to the original acrylic paint. It was a lot of fun to work this way. And the end result has lots of things going on. You can see the parts that are kind of mushed in, that are really sort of atmospheric, and you can see the other parts that have a lot of detail to them, and a lot of pigment, bright pigment.